Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. I am your host, Harrison Graham. Day 3 of NFL free agency is upon us. Also, the official start of the NFL league year set to take place 3 o'clock Central Time this afternoon. That's when contracts start to become official and possibly when some new deals end up getting done as well. We didn't get to hit this last night on YouTube. I did a little Twitter and Instagram video after the Nicholas Morrow news dropped. Thought I'd save it for this morning. Lucas Patrick has signed on a 2-year deal with Chicago, a versatile offensive lineman coming down from the Green Bay Packers. You guys have been waiting for Ryan Poles to sign an offensive lineman, and here you go. The first one is here. Lucas Patrick has agreed to a 2-year, $8 million contract, $4 million guaranteed in year 1. And this is an interesting player. I'll be honest, he wasn't really on my radar in NFL free agency, but after the signing, I looked into him. I read some stuff online from people I trust, and I think this is going to be a guy that starts for Chicago. For now, I will plug him in at right guard on this offensive line, but he started last year primarily at center. The year before, he played primarily guard. He can play all 3 interior offensive line spots, which is very, very valuable. I like that he can play guard. I like that he can play center. This is a player that has started 28 games over the past 2 seasons with Green Bay as a part of a very good offensive line up there. Obviously, the Luke Getsy connection, he knows him well, so I think this is going to be a player that comes in and contributes for pretty cheap as well. 2 years, $8 million. We said Ryan Poles would attack the second wave of free agency. I think it's here. That's a good value signing. More on this in a moment. But in the meantime, grade the Lucas Patrick signing. Rate it from 1 to 100. 1 being you think it sucks. 100 that you think it's an A-plus signing here. I think it's a solid B++ deal. It's a good contract. It's a guy that can start. Hey, if you get enough good players, he can be a backup as well. I do think he will likely start. The question is whether it will be at center or guard. Now, you look at his past 2 years, kind of PFF breakdown here with Green Bay. Started 13 games a year ago, primarily at center. His overall grading, not, spectacular on that front, but always take PFF grades with a grain of salt. You know what I do like? Only gave up 1 sack in 13 starts. That's a really good number, and his pass blocking grade was pretty good, which I think will be important. 15 starts the year before it. Guard, run blocking was better as a guard, pass blocking slightly worse according to, again, PFF's grading system. Take that with a grain of salt. 3 sacks that he gave up that year. So, solid player, not a superstar by any means, but a guy that can start. Other moves the Bears make, both in free agency and in the draft, will determine where he plays. And the good news with this signing is you don't have to sign him and tell him right away, hey, you're going to start at center or guard. You can say, hey, we like you. You're going to start for us. But depending on what the center and guard market shakes out to be in the rest of free agency and in the draft, that will determine where he starts on this offensive line. It's a good deal. It's a cheap contract. This is a quality signing by Ryan Poles. Where will Lucas Patrick start on the O-line? Take a prediction for us. Type G for guard, type C for center. If they played a game today, I would guess guard because you lost James Daniels, and if you had to go to war with Sam Mustipher at center, you could, although I'm hoping that is not the case in 2022. Again, predict it for us, G for guard or C for center. A few more stories to get to. We broke down the Nicholas Morrow contract last night, did a video from my house. I should say we broke down the signing. We didn't have the contract details yet, but now we do, at least a good chunk of them. 1 year up to $5 million. That's probably with a little bit of incentive, so maybe $3.5, $4 million base salary can get an additional $1 million or $2 with incentives because, as we talked last night, missed all of 2021 with an ankle injury, so probably part of that contract is incentive-based. I'll plug him in at middle linebacker right now. I think there's still probably a move to come at this position. Again, Danny Trevathan's likely going to be a post-June 1 cut. That news could come down as soon as today, but until that's official, I still have him on there, but I don't think he'll be a part of this team next year. Roquan Smith at will. That's where Darius Leonard played in Matt Eberflus's defense in Indianapolis, so I plugged him in there. But him and Morrow are interchangeable at those spots. Either could play Mike or the will linebacker spot. I'll be curious to see where they settle on that front. Obviously, moves at linebacker, if they bring in another quality player, could impact that as well. Maybe bring in someone to play middle linebacker. Roquan plays will, and then maybe Morrow is your Sam linebacker, is kind of that number 3 guy that isn't always on the field. But the last time we saw Nicholas Morrow, he played really well for the Raiders, and this is the guy that's gotten better each and every year with Las Vegas. Obviously, last year a setback with the injury. 78 tackles in 2020, 9 tackles for loss, 9 pass breakups. We talked about his athleticism and coverage ability last night. Had an interception as well. Improved as a blitzer that year with 3 sacks. So this is a guy that can do a little bit of everything. Again, like Lucas Patrick, this is a value signing. This is what Ryan Poles told us. He's going to attack the second and third waves of free agency to get quality players, but for good deals as well. You want to limit how much you overpay in free agency because at the end of the day, more often than not, you do overpay. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel here on Chicago Bears Now. We're literally 28 subscribers away from 44,000. We've gotten like 600 or 700 this week alone. Let's zoom past 44K, get to 45,000 as soon as possible. You guys' support has been awesome. I've been doing 2 or 3 videos per day throughout free agency. That will continue. We'll have another video later today. So subscribe, join us, and continue to support the show. It's 100% free. A couple more moves that have happened. Bears players leaving Chicago. Jakeem Grant, he has agreed to a contract with the Cleveland Browns. A nice little payday for him as well, as he gets 3 years and $13.8 million. One of the premier punt returners in the NFL, can return kicks as well, and a gadget player on offense. I would have liked to bring Grant back personally. I think he would have been a nice number 4 type receiver and a return man. Obviously, he leaves now. I don't blame Ryan Poles for not paying him $4.5 million per year for a returner, but I would have been open to it. Obviously, you got to replace him now. Maybe, just maybe, Daz Newsome is that guy who you drafted in the 6th round last year. That was obviously a different regime, but I liked him coming out of North Carolina as a return guy and as a number 3, number 4 type of receiver. We'll see how this new regime views him. But what has this new regime told us? Speed, explosiveness, and athleticism. Daz Newsome fits all of that. So maybe he can be your punt returner and like your number 4 receiver in his 2nd NFL season. Will you miss Jakeem Grant? I'll miss him. That game he had against Green Bay last year was unbelievable. Had a couple of long touchdowns. Type Y for yes, type in for no. Certainly wish him the best up in Cleveland. Today's show is sponsored by BetUS, and the NCAA tournament technically is already underway with the first 4 here in the play-in games, but March Madness really begins tomorrow with 16 games per day over the next 2 days. It's going to be absolutely electric. Chatsports.com/Bears if you want to go bet on these games with BetUS. Use promo code BEARDOWN to get a 125% deposit bonus when you sign up. These are the current odds to cut down the nets and win the national championship. Gonzaga plus 325. Is this the year for them? Arizona plus 650. Kentucky's at plus 800. Kansas plus 1,000. And then the defending champion Baylor Bears at plus 1,200. Hey, Illinois has good odds. I know a lot of you Illinois fans are Bears fans as well. Go bet on the Fighting Illini as a sleeper team to win it all. Chatsports.com/Bears, promo code BEARDOWN. And yes, Sister Jean's back in the tournament. You can go bet on them as well. Couple more stories here. Artie Burns, I won't spend too much time on this one. 1 year, $2 million to the Seattle Seahawks. This should surprise nobody, as he was never going to be a guy that returned to Chicago in 2022. Great plan by Ryan Pace last year. Cut Kyle Fuller and let Kendall Vilder and Artie Burns compete for CB2. That was an absolute joke. I guess he played okay in mop-up duty late in the year last year when guys got hurt, but yeah, he was not going to be a part of this team moving forward. I still think corner is going to be a spot to watch moving forward. Maybe Thomas Graham emerges as a starter. I can't imagine Kendall Vilder is going to be your CB2. Think about the Nicholas Morrow contract, the value guy. You can bring someone like that in here to be your second outside corner. I would keep an eye on that as we move forward. All right, last story here, and we're officially in the wild internet rumors part of the show, but hey, that's what we do. We react to rumors that are out there and give our entertaining opinions about them. That's what we're all about here at Chat Sports. So let's connect some dots here. JuJu Smith-Schuster to Chicago. Could it happen? Well, it should be a possibility just because they need a receiver, but let's add even more to that. So last night, Justin Fields, you see his IG story post here, was bowling with Darnell Mooney and some other folks as well. We don't know quite who those people are. You know who else was bowling last night? JuJu Smith-Schuster. Now, the tinting in the bowling alley is different, but if you've ever been to one of these upscale bowling alleys, like the lights change all the time, these lanes look eerily similar. And if you're like, that's not JuJu, that's a panda. Well, he's a TikTok guy, and he used some kind of filter. You know, that's next level for me. I can't keep up with all that stuff. But the lanes look pretty similar. I don't know. It's, just connecting dots here. You know what's even further interesting? Fields posted this on his story, the scoreboard of him and his boys bowling last night. There's also someone, if you look closely, named Tay. Is Devontae Adams bowling with these guys? Who the hell knows? I don't know if it's the same alley. I don't even know if they're in the same states. I did read that JuJu Smith-Schuster is currently in Arizona. Could not find if Justin Fields was. But regardless if they were bowling together or not, I do think JuJu should be a guy Chicago looks into because he's one of the best receivers left on the open market. Darnell Mooney's a good player, but you need more receivers. And obviously you just lost Jakeem Grant as well. I still think you're going to lose Allen Robinson. You need a receiver. Bad. And JuJu Smith-Schuster, while the numbers have dipped, he was injured last year, this can be a number 2 receiver. He can. Now, that probably means you don't have a true number 1, but Mooney and JuJu are quality number 2 receivers, and you need guys, man. You need players at the wide receiver position, and I think JuJu Smith-Schuster would be an interesting player. If anyone's watching and can confirm these wild internet rumors, slide in the DMs at HGramNFL. That way I can, reveal that to the rest of our audience. We'll see if I can investigate further and put some closure on that rumor. Speaking of which, should the Bears sign JuJu? Type S for sign, type P for passed. If the price is right, I would certainly consider it if I was Ryan Poles. All right, jam-packed show today, and follow me on Twitter and on Instagram because last night, like I said, I didn't put a new YouTube video out for Patrick. Wanted to save that for this morning, but you would have known if you followed me when that news dropped. Plus, I had a little, 90-second video on Twitter, 60-second clip on Instagram breaking down the Lucas Patrick signing. So follow me there to get your news instantaneously. And then obviously here on YouTube, we break down news and rumors in a more longer forum as well. Appreciate the support. We'll see you soon here on Bears Now.